Hey everybody, how's it going? All right, check out some Stormy Monday. Oh, I got the wrong track up, so hey, it's live. Let's do this. All right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Longer track. Beginning there. How's everybody doing today? Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it as always. Let me know how the stream's doing. I got some sort of little warning saying something about the stream isn't strong enough or whatever that means. All right. So thanks to everybody for being here as always. That track is from my blues jams that are available on Bandcamp. And so we're talking about Stormy Monday today. And the cool thing about Stormy is, well, a lot of people have asked, can you talk about playing over the changes? And the first thing I can do, let's look at those changes. All right, so I can't put anything on the screen here. I wish I had a little pointer, I can't quite do that. So if you look at the chord changes, and I've run over them in a previous video, basically what we have is a 12-bar blues in G with some fancy changes. So we have a G7 or a G9, a C9, back to that G9, up to half step to A flat 9, back to G9, right? Then we go to C9 on our bar 4, bar 5, C sharp diminished 7. It's a great walk up of G7, A minor 7, B minor 7, B flat minor 7, A minor 7, C minor 7, my turnaround. Okay, so we can play straight minor pentatonic over the whole thing. And I know that's probably what most of you people or guys or everybody here is doing, and I did for a really long time. Let's hear that just for a sec, right? It's G minor blues, and it sounds great. Right? Okay, so that sounds really good. And that's something you really want to start off with, and feeling confident with that. So the minor blues sound would be a little bit more of, these are just super generalizations, like a Texas sound, we're just treating everything as a minor pentatonic, as opposed to a bit more of a major blues sound that we can talk about on this today too, and then making some of those changes that we really want to think about. All right, so the first change on this piece of paper here, right over here, that I want to grab, really, that I think is super important to get, and we can work through all this, is the C sharp diminished 7th chord. Okay, so that's on bar 5 of the chord changes, right? So what happens here, if we look at C sharp diminished 7, we go from C9, then we go to a C sharp diminished 7th chord. Now C sharp diminished 7 is spelled C sharp, E, G, and C double flat is B flat, okay? So really, one cool way to look at it, it's like a C sharp 7 chord with a sharped root. But it is also, since each of the notes of C sharp 7, sorry, C sharp diminished are equidistant apart, they're all the same, they're all a minor third away from each other. So each of those notes could be the root of the chord. So C sharp diminished 7th is also G diminished 7, C sharp diminished 7, B flat diminished 7, and E diminished 7. So we get this really cool, here's another diminished 7th chord. So here's that lick and the fingering you want to think about first. I played a number of times off the top. If you look back in the catalog here, I do a video on a diminished 7th chord arpeggio, but this is the big one you want to get at first. So let me play the change, you can even hear it. go wrong. Sorry. My C chord. Hear that change? And I resolve it back to my G chord. So how I practice this, I would maybe, if you're just kind of new to this, and you're thinking, oh, I've got G minor pentatonic under my fingers, I feel pretty confident about playing that. Start in on just hitting that sharp 4 diminished 7th chord, which is really, 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 really common in the blues. And the cool thing is, if you're playing Stormy Monday with a bunch of guys who don't play that chord, right? Sometimes a lot of people just sit on that C9. Right? Sometimes they don't play it, but you can superimpose it, which is super cool. You don't have to wait for them to do it. You can do it yourself. So I'm thinking C7. Right? So if we also look, cool way to think about the diminished 7th arpeggio, let's get those notes first. We're going to play this particular fingering. This is the real kind of breakthrough for me as you start to learn these chords. First thing, there's the chord. So I have G, I have that B flat with my first finger. My pinky's going to grab this D flat, third finger's grabbing the E, first finger's grabbing the high string on the G, and I have my B flat again. If I just look at those top 3 strings, right? If I just get that under my fingers, and if I look at a G minor blues scale, or I have some of those notes in there. I have the B flat, I have that D flat. If I skip, I have the G, and I have that B flat again. So the only note that I'm missing is the A. But you know, when you're messing around with the blues, you play this E quite a bit. So I'm going to add that in. Let's take that again. Just we're doing one thing at a time. Just hitting that diminished 7th arpeggio on the sharp 4 diminished 7th chord. I'll go back to the chart. Boom. And we'll try again. All right, so here. Follow the bouncing ball. C9. There's my C9, right? Sticking to blues, right? Just for okay, so that is really big. That's a big, big, big one to get. And it's not that difficult to do if you just literally, when you practice this, you say to yourself, okay, every single time this goes by, I'm going to play that same lick every single time, right? Just keep on hitting that lick every time as it goes through. And that way, you're starting to hear it, right? So if the chord progression, if the changes don't have that chord in them, you know where it's supposed to be, right? So obviously, you need to know how to play the chord changes. That's important, of course. But like I said, just play this every time. Or that kind of thing. Every time it goes by. And then you'll start to hear where it's supposed to be. Now, a cool thing about that diminished 7th lick, I can go up in minor thirds, so 1 1/2. Same lick. And I can do that as well because it's the same exact chord. But I like this one to get you started because it's right there. All right, sitting right in the blues scale that you're used to. All right, so there's a lot to cover. The next one I want to jump in on is at the end of the song, we have our D augmented. Right? That D augmented chord next to how the song starts off. So let's see how we can use that. I'm going to use that chord. I'm just going to go right up the chord and outline it with the chord change. So here. See what I did there? I just went, I nailed that chord at the same exact time the piano player, the organ was doing that. But if you get that with it, or if the organ, if you're playing a version of the song where it's just a 5 chord, I can always go. I can put that over the top of it because I can superimpose it if it's there or not, or I can actually grab it and play along with the changes. So now what we've done is I've played G minor blues over the whole thing, though I hit 2 important chord changes that really, I think, pique people's ears, right? It's that sharp 4 diminished 7th chord on bar 5, and then we have this getting the augmented, right? Going up there. Going up this D augmented triad. And that lick, let me just show it to you. I just went, let me get that off of the screen there. So I have, so I was following along, right? But I'm back at the top, right? So it's a really cool lick to have under your fingers, especially, let's say there's no keyboard player. You just jam with a bunch of other guys and you're able to throw that in. Sounds really nice, but you want to work on the timing. You have to practice going. So note-wise, I'm just going right up the arpeggio, or right up the chord, which would be the arpeggio. I'm playing D, F sharp, A sharp, otherwise known as B flat, D, G, then I'm getting this E and sliding on up to the G root. Oh, sorry. Going up that. It's right there. There it is. All right, so I get that right. It's live. Okay, that's a great lick to get. All right, so everybody with me so far? I know it's a great way to start in there. All right, so the first thing, or the next thing I'm going to do, is dig into that whole BB's box idea. Now, I do a really long video on the BB's box that I want you to check out as well. But let's talk a little bit more about that. So what BB's box is, it's basically a major pentatonic scale, but you're going to replace, in this case we're in G. It's a G major pentatonic scale, but we're going to replace the third of the scale, which would be B, with the fourth, which would be C. So it actually looks like the top of a C major pentatonic scale. But if we live in this area, let's hear that. And that's what you're hearing like the Almonds play primarily on Live at the Fillmore, is that kind of a sound. Let me get this track up, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And I might go down to minor. Okay, so I started digging into the major pentatonic and BB's box here. So the idea we have, the note-wise, is E, G, A, C, and D. Well, G7 is our first chord, G, B, D, F. So this E is really pretty sounding. It's sort of the 13 on the chord, or the 6, depending how you want to look at it. The root, and I'm going to take the second of the scale and bend it up towards the third, which would be the B. The fourth of the scale, fifth of the chord. So hear how that sounds. Watch. Same lick, right? All right, so on my 1 chord, so I'm really bending. I play the note A, I'm bending the A, sorry, I play the note G, and I have the A and I bend that up to B, and I have my D on top. So I'm kind of getting just a G chord. The note you're really hearing is a G triad. I want to go to that 4 chord. Well, C7 is my 4 chord, C7, C9. I bend this A to the B flat, because C7 is spelled C, E, G, B flat. Here's the difference. So here's my 1 chord, right? My 4 chord. Right? What did I do there? Oh, yeah, I just played a straight old C7 chord. So if you guys who watch the channel, you realize I'm just seeing chord shapes. C7 on my C7 chord. Then what C sharp diminished? Well, remember, same exact lick, we just have to make sure we put it on the right spot. So we're playing a C sharp diminished 7th chord, or a G diminished. I just move that up. I'm making sure my first finger's on that C sharp. All right, is that making sense so far, everybody? All right. All right, so let's see where we're at with this. Everybody cool with this? Okay, good. A few other things now. We talk about hitting some of the chord changes, right? Because the few things that start to move by that we really want to start to see, I'm looking at the chart here. I'll show you what I'm looking at. So look at the chart there. We have A minor 7, B minor 7, B flat minor 7, A minor 7, C minor 7. So let's just talk about that. I can just play, I don't want to do this too much, but I can play each of those chords related minor pentatonic scale. So we get that. So I'm going to play A minor 7, A minor pentatonic over the A minor 7 chord, B minor 7, B flat minor 7, B minor, sorry, play A minor pentatonic over the A minor 7 chord, B minor pentatonic over the B minor 7 chord. I put B flat, and there's a B flat there, guys. There's something wrong on the chart. I'm an idiot today. So much to go, so much to do. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this chart. All right, it says B minor 7 and B minor 7. It's B minor 7, B flat 7. Sorry, guys. That was what happens when you do something last minute. I'm like, let me put a chart up here. And I'm like writing the chart and then putting it in the thing. So, all right, sorry. Moving that down. So I'm just going to follow the scale. So check this out. I'm going to go right? So I played the minor pentatonic scale of the A minor 7, the minor pentatonic scale of the B minor 7, just for right now, these are the same shape, B flat. I have my C minor pentatonic now for C minor 7, back to G. So let's hear how that sounds. I'm so annoyed I didn't get that chart right. Ugh, idiot. Almond solo, right? Watch. Now on the C minor, I don't necessarily love that you can do it, but that sounded pretty cool on the right, just kind of following those chords as they go up. So what I'm seeing, I'll even play it simpler. I'll just play the chord. All right, so back to the top G. Pretty cool, right? So I just played A minor 7, B minor 7, B flat minor 7, and my C minor 7. I just went to I added in this E flat. Back to my G, sorry. So you see, I'm just playing those chord shapes. And that's a good one to get through. Now, I do have a bit of advice. If you play the song and you're going through those changes, don't necessarily on a gig do that every single time. If you do it every single time, people are going to be like, oh, here he goes. Here he goes again with that thing. You know what I mean? They're going to be like, there goes that chart again. I'm sorry, there goes that change. And it becomes very predictable if you overdo it. So that's my advice, is to not overdo it. Really spend some time hitting it here and there. And now it's the mixture of all of these ideas that actually come up with the cool sounds. So I'm going to do one more time through, and I'll start answering some questions. I'm skipping some chords, but let's just talk about the concept of the whole thing. I have that A flat 7 chord. I can just move up, and when I go, I can do G7. Just played the chord. Right? Did you guys hear the chord changes in there? I just went. And I have my either E flat major sometimes or C minor 7, usually both. Right, so I'm outlining, just following the chords as I go through. All right, so let me put that together one more time. I'm going to mix all those sort of ideas, and hopefully it'll sound good. It's live. Who knows what's going to happen? play that A flat 7 chord. A diminished. See? So if you just do what I did, this is what I show people how to do as they're going through this tune to keep it relatively simple. But the main thing, the main thing, guys, is to just pick one thing to do at first. And for me, the first thing to get down that's really cool is diminished 7th arpeggio. That's the one you want to really kind of nail. You can, like I said, too, you can do that. Excuse me, you can do that and not actually have the chord progression, that chord change be in your chord progression, because you can superimpose it over the top. So that's a great sound to be able to do that. Then the next one I would grab is trying to get that diminished, or the augmented arpeggio at the end, the D augmented, right? You get that little fill to follow on. Right? Then the next one, so now you have those two. Now you go through it and you're like, I'm going to get that and I'm going to get that. Then you start thinking about some of the BB's box idea. Listen to Allman Bros Live at the Fillmore. They do a lot of this stuff. And then going up to the change, pentatonic scale works nicely. Now, as I said, if you do it every single time, it'll be a little tedious, but as a practice method, you should do it every single time. Now, if you're playing here, right, let's just say you're kind of visiting in an area for a long time, which is another great way to practice, to do everything here. Well, A minor pentatonic, when I go up those changes, B minor, just go down to B flat minor if you want. Right, back to that. All those changes are right there. I went to the A minor there, so let's do that again. So A minor, and my B. Which I missed a few times right now. Then C minor, G. Let's hear that one more time. Brain fart there. I think I missed that change. These are live videos. Playing a lot of the same ideas on purpose, right? Up the A flat. Back down. Play the chord. C7. Diminished 7. Back to chord. Back to 1. Or playing C7. All right. This making some sense? Sorry about that funky chart. Let's get to some questions, and thanks everybody for being here. I know it was a lot to digest, but people were asking a lot about playing over those chord changes. Okay. All right. So first of all, the roll call. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. Of course, Phil Mingan, of course, always being here. Thank you, Vili, for the top chat. Goody goodies. I really like the goody goodies. Thank you. And all right, everyone. Kristen, Jason Carter, David Cromwell, Matt Gibson. What's up, man? Michael Cope. Fishy Fish. I guess is that Jeff? All right. I don't know. Pat Hall. David Skinner. How's it going, David? Have everybody. Tommy Rapper. Roy Warren. Graham, of course. Guitar player. All right, everyone is here. Richard and Sarah. And I got all the questions at the bottom. Saying hi to everybody as I go back up. All right, so let me just jump down to some questions. Stephen Moore, Zeta, what's going on, Zeta? How you doing? Brad McLovin, what's going on, man? How you been? Okay, I'm gonna just jump down to some questions here. Okay. Which is your favorite version? This is from Jason Carter of Stormy Monday. There have been so many done, the Allman Brothers, Clapton, Cream, T-Bone Walker, and even Eva Cassidy. For me, the definitive version growing up is Allman Brothers Live at the Fillmore East. I'm not saying that's the best version. I'm saying that, but I am saying that that's the best version. Now, I've never heard a version I like better than that. Everything kind of, I don't want to say pales in comparison. The T-Bone Walker version is great, of course, but the Allmans was the one that really was super influential for me. As was that whole record, the Live at the Fillmore East record, which is just really, really great. Which I'm sure I don't have to tell any of you guys that you should have Allman Brothers Live at the Fillmore East. Okay. And then, the backing track for this is on my Bandcamp link that Phil has been so diligent in posting up here. And for all you guys who picked up the track, I really appreciate it. Thank you. All my courses are 20% off through TrueFire through my website. And of course, I have my Brett Papa course, or the course I did with Brett Papa, my blues rock masters, and working on some other stuff. All right, going down here. All right, guys, looking at the questions. Sometimes it jumps, so I want to make sure I get to everything. Are the tickets available for the show tomorrow night at the bitter end? Nope. It's sold out, which is pretty psyched about. Yeah, so tomorrow night I'm playing at the bitter end in New York City. It's sold out, unfortunately, or fortunately. But it was limited tickets. Everybody had to buy a table, so unfortunately not. Okay, keep on going to the questions. Can you speak about how to bend through the notes like the changes like Duane Allman does? Well, I'm thinking about those same sort of things as we were saying, like so I'm just kind of bending like so that my first chord. So, and then when he goes to the Allman, Duane does that. So my G chord, he's playing E, G, A to B. So you're bending to the natural third of my G chord. Then he does that kind of idea. So when you go to the 4 chord, he bends from B flat to C, which is the root. Then he bends from A to B flat, which is the flat 7. So, right, so you're really hitting lamely, but he does it all with bends. Yeah. So when he's doing that, back to the 1 chord. So really it's just making those chord changes. The main thing is you find those sounds inside the BB's box, which is a really important way to see this. That you see how one note bends to the other note. And you really got to plan it out. And that's why I say when you practice this stuff, you want to practice this stuff with intent, right? Like I'm just going to sit down, I'm going to play that BB's box stuff till I'm blue in the face, and then I'm going to get up again tomorrow and do it again, and then the next day I'm going to do it again, and the next day I'm going to do it again. So you have to keep on pounding it so you hear those changes and where those bends are. All right. We're just checking. We're playing the tension of the chords. Oh, we forgive you. Thanks, David, for the mess up in the chord sheet. Ah, so annoying. It's the same idea of chord shapes that you would do for a short fill instead of a full solo. It's the same idea of chord shapes. Yeah, I would play off of those. I have a video on the rhythm guitar on how to play rhythm on this on Stormy Monday. So go check that one out. I go through all those kind of, that whole stuff. I go through all that stuff. So definitely check that out. It's in the other videos because that's a whole other walkthrough, of stuff to talk about. All right. You want a hat like this? It's a Bailey's hat. That's all. It's Bailey's. Okay. In the original version, there was a C minor. Was there a C minor, or the Allmans introduced that? What would a D7 sound like? Yeah, that's from David Skinner. There's a few versions you could do. So we did the walk. E flat 7. I think that's what T-Bone does. Right, that E flat 9, D9. Or you could just have done not as cool. So you can do the E flat, D9, or just sit on that C minor 7, C minor 7, E flat, major, very similar. So I wouldn't go straight to the D though. That kind of waters it down a little bit. Yep, the Bobby Blue Bland version is great. I mean, there's so many great versions of it. But like I said, the one for me was always Stormy, the Live at the Fillmore, because it was the one that I'd first heard. Okay. Jump down the bottom. When you go to BB's box, are you playing over the C7 at that point? This is from Kevin. Yeah, Kevin, yeah, I'm playing over the C7. Like I just talked about previously, in that BB's box fingering. I mean, I see it as a fingering, but honestly, I'm thinking G7. I see it in there. So G, B, D, F. And then my C7, C, E, G, flat B. And say if we just go to a 5. Right? So you see the shape of the chord right there. And think about that. G7, C7, and maybe D7. When you see that, it starts to really open up. So I am playing over the C7 net for sure. For sure. All right. How do you approach soloing over these chords? Do you think modal or tonal or both? I don't think modally at all. What's up, Quincy? Yeah, I do not think modally at all. I don't think about scales playing this unless I'm thinking, pentatonic. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Yes, I'll think about a pentatonic scale for sure. Right? 'Cause that's the genre of the music. But if I'm starting to make the chord changes, I'm not thinking modally at all. I'm thinking about the chords. Right? Right? No, I'm always thinking about the chord changes. Think about being in tune too. Kind of new strings. Sorry, guys. There we go. All right. What string gauge are we using? Yes, these are 10s. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Stephen Moore. Thanks for another great lesson. I really appreciate it. how does the aux work? I plug my amp into it, and it takes all the power of the amp, it attenuates it down to 0, and then it has a bunch of built-in amp simulators and effects like reverb and delay, and then I go through that. So it's not a real cabinet, so I can turn the amp up loud, or much louder than I could in my apartment, and then I can play it to the computer, so I'm going direct. So right now it's as loud as a TV. So that's how it works. Jack Jones, thanks so much. You appreciate the help by playing so much. This song is called On Gigs, so I assumed it's the version with the changes. Yeah. Thanks, Jones. Jim Jack Jones. Yeah, this song is called All the Time. And it is one of those songs that you got to be careful with, in the sense of you don't want to... it's a slow tune, right? So don't call it as your first song. Don't have everybody in the band solo over it, because sometimes it can be kind of like, oh boy, a 20-minute version of Stormy Monday can be really rough for the old audience to listen to, and certainly for me. If I hear a band play Stormy Monday, they got to play it really, really well, or else I want to shoot myself. I remember, I was doing the workshop with Robin, and we were doing the jams with the guys, and one of the guys was like, "Hey, let's play Stormy Monday," and Robin's like, "No, I'm not playing Stormy Monday, no." So, Chris Covington, he's making a joke. Chris knows. Chris is a student of mine, so Bill, Chris is joking, man. Chris Covington is practicing really all that important. He's just having fun with me. Yes, he knows it's that important. Okay. So yeah, just to clear up, and Michael Harrington answered Jim Jack's question. Thank you. Yeah, if you say let's do Stormy Monday, this is what they mean. It's the changes. It's still the blues, but it's the Stormy Monday changes. So it's really, they're pretty set in stone. If you don't play them, if somebody calls Stormy Monday, they expect you to play these changes with not necessarily the one I put on the bad chord on the chord chart. But yeah, standard stuff. Okay, wonder, sir, is it since the amazing PRS is a Gibson-like guitar? Don't you miss a single cut, or is it an SG type guitar? No, it's a Gibson scale. It's thinner, and it's really got easy high fret access. They have a single cut, which actually has pretty good high fret access, and it's a little thicker, I believe. So maybe be even closer to a Les Paul. I have Les Paul, and what I loved about this guitar, besides it's kind of cool looking, is I think it sounds great. It's a lot lighter. It's like 7 pounds 6 ounces, so that's always a pleasure. And it doesn't have a real steep neck angle, so I can put this in a good gig bag and not really worry about it too much. I mean, apart from that, besides it just being a great guitar, it is very Gibson-like, but it doesn't sound exactly like my Les Paul, and that's cool because I have a Les Paul, but it sounds in that ballpark. It's got a little bit more of a top to it, like a little brighter maybe, but right. So it does. My Les Paul is a little thicker and a little more growly, and they're both great. I love this thing because this covers a lot of ground. It plays amazingly and sounds great, and it looks bitchin', and it's really light. I can bring it with wherever I go, so it checks a lot of boxes. All right. This is from Bill, 1949. Your tone is unbelievably stunning. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. How long did it take for you to achieve that? And was it something that you developed as you're working on your chops? Um, well, it starts in the hands. I didn't always have good tone in my hands. I think I always was aware of who had good tone. Like I was always attracted to those guitar players, like David Gilmour and Eric Clapton. Those guys who just sounded great, and I always just thought that was cool. Brian May, you'd start playing, I'm like, listen to that guitar sound, And then I started to realize, with Stevie Ray Vaughan, Hendrix, that a lot of it was the way you play. So I will play through all of these different amps, and I think I sound pretty much the same through most of them. There'll be differences, like, the Marshall's going to have a little bit of a different attack than the Two-Rock or something, but at the end of the day, it still sounds like me playing through a slightly different amplifier, right? Yeah. So, but I did work really hard on it. So it took a while for me to get through this, the idea of when I practice, I'm always thinking about the tone. I'm always thinking about music, right? So where I'm picking, how I'm picking, that's a little bright for my ear. The dynamics in how I pick. Right? So even if I'm practicing scales, I'm thinking about music at all times. And that was part of it, just being really aware of, do I think I am pleasant to listen to? You know what I mean? Is my playing, is it pleasant? Is it harsh? You hear somebody playing, you're like, oh God, that's really harsh. So I really try to shy away from that. So it's a long time. Yeah, sure, I worked on it. But that's the way I would work on it, just being aware of it and then practicing and dialing in your amp and your hands and figuring out how you could play it. I hope that answers that. Michael Harrington, I mentioned, there's an error in the chart. I just put the chart up like literally while my intro track was playing, and then I realized that I just screwed it up. So it's a B flat minor 7, 9 nut bar, as I said earlier. Yeah. So yes, that is wrong. So I'm sure somebody, as they're watching the playback, is going to go, that chart's wrong. Gotcha. We call them the gotcha guys. Those are the guys who are like, I appreciate that. We have a joke sometimes at True Fire. Like if someone's like, hey, in bar 32 of example number 27, you said a B flat, but it's a B. But a wrong chord chart, wrong chord in a chart. That's a big one. Yeah, sorry about that. All right. Right, Michael, you just posted right now the major pentatonic, especially the minor pentatonic, gives it that sound. Yep. The Allman Brothers sound, for sure. That mixture, that major and minor pentatonic. Jason Carter, the PRS is more versatile than a Les Paul, I'm guessing. You have neither yet. Yeah, I would say it is a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, we can hear the difference between the two. I will play the difference between the two if you'd like. So, it's not really fair because they're different pickups and all that. Right, so if I do that, and if I just pick up my Les Paul, these are different pickups. Right, it's a little more output. Same kind of ballpark, though. Right, so there's a difference for sure. But it's not. To me, it's not a super day and night. Like, oh my God, one. But this is that's a relatively light Les Paul, but this is lighter and easier to bring around. It does have the split coils in it, which is kind of cool. Which actually sound pretty good. I mean, it's never going to sound like a Strat, but it does make it a little more versatile. Okay. See you, Graham. Graham's checking out. What other song progressions use the G7, G sharp diminished 7/9? That's not really a chord, not to be pedantic, but what other chords use? Oh, I think you just deleted that. Well, the sharp 4 diminished 7th chord, that's what this is. It's very common in the blues. Sharp 4 diminished 7th. So in this case, it would be C sharp diminished 7th. So once again, if we're going to blues, right, like that. Right, that kind of sound in my blues. Very common. So it's a sharp 4 diminished 7th chord. So you take the 4th chord of your blues on bar 5 and you make it diminished. Up a half step and then make it diminished. Okay. Is there any other questions? That was a lot. I'm still annoyed that I got that chart wrong. Anyway. Thank God that is not a chord. Yeah, no, I know what you meant, guitar player. I knew what you meant for sure. I just didn't want to, to clarify that. Now, what I end up doing, here's the biggest thing, is play along with a bunch of different versions of it. Play along with the Allman Brothers version. Play along with T-Bone Walker's version, play along with Clapton's version, play along with I know Jimmy Witherspoon does a version of it, and who's the other one that was mentioned earlier? I'm drawing a blank. There's a million versions. Just play along with them. Just jam with other guitar players. And that really helps a lot, in your feeling when you're playing the tracks with it. Do I ever play songs like Stevie Vaughan and Albert King style? Sometimes. There's other guys who do that stuff really, really well. And I'm pausing because it's such a delicate thing. I love Stevie Vaughan growing up. Huge influence on me and many other guitar players. And then there were so many guitar players that ended up sounding like Stevie and Albert. And there's still a lot of them. And for me, I didn't want to be one of those guys, right? All we needed was another Stevie or Albert clone. We already have them. And, I was always more attracted to, ultimately, Clapton, Peter Green, Jeff Beck, those kind of guys. And then the more rock guy, Jimmy Page, Paul Kossoff, the more, say, major pentatonic, but Stevie and Albert are a little bit more minor pentatonic based. And so I was just a little bit more pulled towards Clapton in Cream and Clapton in John Mayall and the Blues Breakers. That was really important for me. So at that point, I got pulled away from the Stevie thing. And also, there's so many Stevie Ray Vaughan clones out there. It was really hard, to differentiate yourself. And that was one way to kind of go, boop, make that left turn. Actually, that was a right turn. Make a left turn and try to find my own voice a bit more. Okay. How have you been prepping to get back to live music? That's a good question. Well, I had our first rehearsal the other day, and that was great. Really a great feeling to play with a bunch of musicians and play some real music. There's only so much you can do. I've been practicing, which I always like to do to stay in shape. And I have also have been just playing over my songs, because there are some of my tunes that I haven't played in a year. And there's some of the songs from the record I did with Robin, that there's some chord changes that, song called 1968. I wish I could play you some of my stuff from my record. It's so funny, the record is through CD Baby, and I remember playing one of my tunes and I got demonetized for my own music on my web page. And I contested it, and they said, no, sorry. So what they basically said was I'd have to go to CD Baby to demonetize people playing my music on YouTube. So I'm still getting it on the back end. It was just the funniest thing. I'm like, well, I wrote the song. How can I be demonetized for my own song? It's just a funny moment of like, wait, what? That's my song, you know? So, interesting. So there were some of those chord changes on the bridge of one of the tunes, and they're really tricky, so I have to run over those again. Those kind of things. And I have to play through my tunes if there's ones I haven't played in a little bit. Just rewind and get them under your fingers if you haven't played them in a year. There's only so much stuff you can practice because there's something we call gig chops. And the other night I went to go see Jason Lachlan play, and he was nice enough to ask me to sit in. He's got another guitar player in his band named Luca Benedetti, who's a great guitar player. And he's like, oh, you want to sit in? He handed me his guitar, and it was just funny. He's got like a Strat with higher action and flat wounds and a completely clean guitar amp. And I was like, I felt like I was being punked. It was funny. But Jason and I were talking about it too. There's nothing you can do. It's just like you got your gig, you're on, and there's gig chops. There's the regularity of playing out live is what actually brings those kind of things together. So there's only so much prepping you can do. And some people ask me, like, why are you streaming the show? And a few reasons why I'm not. One, the bitter end doesn't have anything streaming set up yet. So it'd require me bringing in someone in to stream it. That's a hassle and a lot of work. And also, it's the first show in a year. And, I'm not sure I want to stream that just yet. Just out of that, my own kind of thing. I'm not sure if I want to do that. It'll be fun. I'm not saying it's going to be bad. I've just, things live on the internet forever. And, maybe you don't want that living on the internet. All right, so thanks for everybody for being here. Wow, I still got 100 and still a lot of people up here. Any other questions? Happy to kind of talk about some stuff. But today I am just the questions people want. It's the PRS, and I'm playing to the aux, and I'm playing to the Bloomfield drive. Right? So I really love that. And tomorrow, some people have asked, like, what amp am I using tomorrow? Because there's the questions. Since we're in New York City, and getting to the heart of Greenwich Village and getting your gear there. This is one of the things I hate about New York is lugging gear, because you can't pull up in front of the club and just park in the parking lot and load your gear in the back door. And you're sometimes have to put your amp on a hand truck and roll it down the street, or you double park, and you can't double park on Bleecker Street because you'll get a ticket instantly. And you don't want that $145 ticket or whatever it is, something crazy like that. So sometimes if you get a parking spot, you're lucky, and if not, you're walking down, you're looking for the spot. You get spots a few blocks away, and you're rolling your amp and your guitar and your pedal board. And so I decided I'm going to use the house amp. I'm going to not use the 2-rock, mainly because here's the thing. I want to go into the gig. I was having a great conversation with Jason Lachlan about this. That's it's stress before a gig. I don't have a roadie to carry my stuff with me, so I'm just like, sometimes it's easier they got a Hot Rod DeVille there, or like a Fender DeVille, and I use those on the road. I'm like, I know what that amp is. I got some really great pedals. I've dialed in my pedal board for just such that occasion, that I'm going to run into a clean amp, and the Hot Rods and those DeVilles all sound kind of the same. So use the clean channel, plug in my pedal board, and just go for it. In a perfect world, yeah, I would love to bring my amp, but this way I can take the subway to the gig and then take the subway home and not have to, look for parking or pay for parking, which in New York is just insane, or take an Uber, which would be like $100 round trip. So those are the real things about gigging in New York that people want to know. Like, oh, you're going to use this amp or that. I'm like, some days I just use what's there. And that brings me to another point that I think is important to talk about. Is in a perfect world, yes, I would always use my amp. Sometimes that becomes, like I said, a big problem. So what I found about a lot of New York City guitar players is we can't get that precious about it because you're like, oh, is there an amp there? All right, is it in good shape? Yeah, okay, I'll just use that. So we all of us, as on the whole, have just really don't get too precious about that stuff because we figured out I'm still going to sound pretty much like me if the amp is not a complete piece of junk. And fortunately, fortunately, the house amp for many, many years was like a Roland JC120 in like the 90s, or the Red Knob Twins, which are really painful amps. Like the JC120, I've been going on gigs and you saw that there and you're like, oh my God, there's just nothing you can do with that amp with any kind of distorted guitar sound. Like, it's great if you're playing African music, but playing any kind of blues it's a very difficult amp to get a good sound out of. So the Hot Rod DeVille or the DeVilles became sort of the stock amp, but I think those are really good amps. And someone like Mike Landau, that's what he would order on the road, because I remember being on the road a lot and I would ask for a Marshall and you get like a Marshall 2000, which isn't bad, or you get one of those ones that has like 4 rows of knobs and I'm like, I just want to be an 800 or something like that when I was playing a rock band. So you never know what you're going to get, or if it's a really tired, beaten up Marshall. So the DeVilles are very consistent. They've got a really good clean channel and they've got good reverb and they have a good EQ. So I just plug into the clean channel with a little bit of reverb and it's good to go. And like I said, Michael Landau ended up having his own amp made for that, where he changed the speaker and he changed the channels, but he does the same thing when he was traveling and touring. He would order those amps because you always seem to know I found them to be pretty consistent and they're decent amps. But I never use the overdrive channel on those amps, just a clean channel, and I'll plug in the pedals that I like. Have I ever jammed with G.E. Smith? No, I've never jammed with him, but I have met him a number of times and hung out with him at Matt Newmanoff's guitar store. And there was Chelsea Guitars. I used to see him in there all the time when I lived in Chelsea. He's always been super cool, but I've never jammed with him. I've hung out with him though. Really nice guy. Very nice guy. So it's amp roulette in a way. It's from Jason Carter. Yeah, kind of. What do you think? What do I think of? Oh, a Brown Sugar ZZ Top lesson. I could probably do that. Yeah, sure. Yeah. My friends, they all told me. Yeah, we could do that at some point. That's a good one. That's a good idea. I love that tune. And his guitar tone on that first record, those first few records, it's always great. But that's so great. That whole record, if you guys are not familiar, some of you, I know some of you are, but when I grew up, I was of the age, for me, that ZZ Top was Sharp Dressed Man and the whole big MTV stuff. I didn't really get them until a little later, and I remember hearing, of course, I always grew up hearing Cheap Sunglasses and LaGrange, but it never really hit me that it was the same band. And then I picked up the first few records. I got Tres Hombres, and I was like, oh my God, this is like the greatest thing ever. So all those early records, totally great stuff. And I have a How to Play in the Style of Billy Gibbons course out on TrueFire if you want to check it out. 20% off through my website. Do I know of a good head cab switching system that allows you to switch between multiple heads and multiple cabs on the fly? No, I do not. It's a good question. I don't know anything about that stuff because I will never play that way because I have to move my own gear. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be fun. There's a bunch of them. I don't know anything about that, the switching system stuff. It would be kind of cool to have that, but I just plug into my amp and go. It is interesting, just back to this, then I'll take the head out. But that is a funny thing. I remember talking to Scott Henderson, a great guitar player, and he's like, yeah, how you running your reverb? I'm like, it's a knob on my amp, or it's on my pedal, you know what I mean? And he's like, well, because he was running rack stuff, and then switching stuff. And so for people in New York, where there's never a sound check, you just got to plug in and get rolling. You want to make it as quick and easy as possible. So kind of designed my life around that. And then as touring, having not been fortunate enough to tour at this high level where I've had multiple people handling my gear and having techs and things like that, it's mostly been me and a road manager and the guys at the club helping out. I always had to make it so I could reduce I try to remove as many hurdles as I can, right? Predict what's going to happen. I'm on the road, I'm assuming, unless I know what the amp is, that I'm going to get stuck with a crappy amp. So I'll go for something like a DeVille because I know what it's going to sound like. There's a million of them. They're all over the place. And they're all usually pretty good if they're reasonably maintained. All Marshalls don't sound the same. People are like, oh, do you like Fender Deluxe reverbs? No, not for the kind of music I play. I think they're cool amps. I don't love the way they take pedals. If you turn them up too much, they start to fart out. They're great amps, but they're not great for me. And say if you're on the gig where you're like, I need to be a little louder, the DeVilles are like 40 blaringly loud watts, as opposed to like a deluxe. So if I remember, I did some fly dates with Robin, and he ordered twins. He ordered two supers, and they were really tired and beat sounding supers. They were not really great. And I said, I'll just have two DeVilles. And even he was like, that sounds really pretty good. I'm like, I know, they seem to be more consistent than if you ask for like a super reverb. All right. So thanks, guys. A lot of people on. I really appreciate everybody hanging out. Thanks for all the people. I see some of the people you were hitting the... that's going to go weird for me in a second. I think I touched my my video. I have it on phone here. This is just in case I go out of focus, so it might... I touched it, so it might go a little weird there for a second. This is all live. Yes, yeah, there we go. See, there it is. That's the screen. So thanks for everybody once again for being here. I really appreciate it. All my courses are 20% off, and all the people who hit the tip jar, I really appreciate that. And people who have contacted me for lessons, I always appreciate that too. And if you haven't heard from me, I'm getting on it. Oh, and last week or weeks ago, some people sent me suggestions about what you would like to see in a course, and I really do appreciate that. It's great because I'm trying to figure out what you guys want or what you want to see in a subscription channel. And because I'm starting to go that way with a lot of these things, and it's how I make my living. So for all you guys who are picking up the background tracks, picking up the courses, hitting the tip jar, it's making a living as a musician is about all these different things. So the gigs don't pay anything. I'm gonna probably, if I break even after paying my guys, and I like paying the guys because they're good guys and they deserve to get paid. So all this kind of stuff, we really appreciate it. I really appreciate everybody who's here. And it's like a thing on Wednesdays. It's great. It's so much fun. And it really bowls me over that people say, they look forward to Wednesdays. And I was on here and people were on a half hour early saying, yeah, looking forward to it. I mean, I can't believe it. It's so much fun. So the thing I would ask you to do is share and let people know about it if you really dig it. Trying to grow the channel, try to get a greater reach, and yeah. All right. So you guys are the best, and I will see you all next week. And take it easy. Okay, bye-bye. Thanks again to Phil, as always.